George. Well, he was quite the character. He was rather short. He was bald. Let's see. He is a lifetime military guy in the Army. He left the Army as a master sergeant. I don't know a lot about Uncle George because I only saw him on holidays.
I met him, and he was just getting out of the military. I'm not sure what year that was. But he would tell me stories about where he worked, and one of his jobs was working in the Pentagon and blacking out information.
In Vietnam, Uncle George, he was one of the censor-type peoples, or, excuse me, folks that any kind of letters or information had to go through his department to leave Vietnam to come back to the States. As screening, more or less, make sure nothing leaked out that wasn't appropriate to leak out. One of those deals where he could tell you, but he'd have to shoot you.
But he said he had the sad job in Vietnam of telling people when he was in Vietnam that he had to tell families when their loved ones died, and sometimes he didn't always tell the truth because the truth would have hurt too badly. He said that some of it was friendly fire, meaning it was their own people or those fighting with them for that.
Once a week, on Thursdays, diplomatic cars arrive at the conference center, bringing delegates to talk about a war in which nearly 1 million men have died. The Vietnam War. There's nothing to comment on anymore. Everything that could be said in public has been said. And in the meantime, the war goes on and the casualty lists mount.
I think it really affected him. He was very quiet, very reserved, and just liked to sit there and answered a few questions but never really talked about his experience.
Used to see him mostly at holidays with the family dinners. My dad would pick him up, bring him to the house, and we'd have turkey, ham, or whatever the occasion was. He loved to sit around and feed the pets.
He loved our dog, Jake. He would actually feed him crackers and cheese from a cheese ball. He'd put cheese on one for him, and then he'd make one for Jake. He also had a female friend. Her name was Joanne. And they'd go dancing and do different things. I think they were into country music, if I'm not mistaken. But she was taller than him. And he was not a very big man, very tall at all, very short. One very sad part, I remember when he had cancer and he had surgery and he had a do not resuscitate. He had, I think it was a heart attack during the night, and they resuscitated him, even though he had died. And the next day he had a tube down his throat, and he knew what had happened, and he was really, really angry.
I was one of the last ones with him before he passed away, I can say that. I was the guy that went in there and told the doctors to pull the plug on him. He gave me a salute because he couldn't speak at the moment, and that was the last time I saw him.
He regrets that he didn't want Joanne to visit him in the hospital because he didn't want her to see him so sick. But near the end, I think he told Grandma that it was probably not the right decision because he never had a chance to say goodbye.